We are the doers, the trailblazers, the climate protectors, the front line, the builders, the restorers, the growers, the students, and the teachers, the future leaders. We are in your community doing important work. We are the Core Network. 130 plus cores and counting, all across America.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to the Core Network's 2021 virtual conference. I'm Marie Walker, the Chief Operating Officer at the Core Network, and I will be your host for the next 3 days. So come with us, be ready. I'm ready. Bobby's ready. He's even got his popcorn. But hopefully we're all ready. I even got my chucks. So let's get ready for the virtual conference. Also, don't forget social media. Please pull out your phone, tweet, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever social media platform you can get on or you're on. Let the world know that the Core Network, their annual conference, is happening right now as we speak. This year, we're excited because there are over 800, I said 800 core members, staff, partners, and supporters that are joining us from all across the country in what may be our biggest conference ever. As you can probably tell, we're doing things a little bit differently. In past years, about now, this would be Sunday, and you might be catching up in the foyer of the ballroom with old friends or putting a face to a name of someone you've been emailing over the course of the past year. Or, like me and many of the rest of us, we'd be at the registration desk talking to Leslie and having some of the candy from our candy basket. And nothing can replace the sense of camaraderie and the sense of connection that we found at our in-person conferences. But with that being said, I am equally excited for what we are about to do and for what's in store for us this year. Our conference has never, ever been as accessible to so many as it is this year. Speakers and workshop presenters who would normally be unavailable can now call in from home and share their insights and what otherwise might be missed. Core members who can rarely take off multiple days from the field are now able to connect with their peers from across the country in one single afternoon. Core staff and core partners from all levels can bring together new perspectives that will engage and inform our movement for the next steps and the next generations to come. Over the course of the past few years, we've moved forward together. We've built the trail ahead. We've learned what resilience was. We learned how to thrive. And now we move into what is a new era, cores in today's America. And now that I mentioned our conference theme, let's take a look back at 2020. 2020 was definitely a ride. If I had told you last year at this time to expect a year like what we just had, you would have either laughed me off of the stage or thought I was completely crazier than what I already am. Sadly, though, this is the reality that we currently live in at this moment. Trauma and grief has touched each of us and all of us, maybe directly or indirectly. And while we spend the next few days together, we'll be envisioning a better and brighter future, and we must hold some space for that for which was lost. To all of you who are going through a difficult time in your life, I want to say that we see you, we feel you, we love you, and we hope that your tomorrows will be more merciful and the days to come. So, in that same spirit, let us take a moment of reflection to honor those that we've lost. Thank you, and I wish you and your families well. The sober reality is that in the face of such loss, we must also find a way to rebuild. Just how the forest blooms after a wildfire, we stand here today looking out at a landscape that has both been devastated, but also has new possibilities. In a moment that's exhilarating and uncertain, because the decisions we make now may likely define America's generations. But if we tend to lead ourselves in the right direction, we can nurture the future that is balanced, healthy, and sustainable. But if we fail to meet the call and we don't learn from our past mistakes, we may continue to be plagued by the invasion of inequality, exploitation, and structural racism. I'm certain that CORS will step to the task like they always have, because this is our moment and our movement. CORS have been on the minds of folks here in Washington, D.C. and at the Core Network, and I think our GR team, their lack of sleep, can definitely attest to that. But for the great work that CORS can accomplish and what we look for in this new era. Over the past month, we asked each of you to share what principles, ideals, and challenges you want us to see CORS prioritize in this new era. We have compiled all 878 responses. That's how many folks have registered for this conference, of the images shown that you see here. The largest concepts are the ones referenced the most often. If you want to know why I'm certain that we are ready to take on this challenge, just take a look at what's listed here. Equity, climate change, leadership, inclusion, and if you look real close, affordable housing, adaptation, equitable outreach, youth-led. All of these images together is only our starting point in defining our collective vision for what we see in the future. As you join in conversations over the next few days, we want you to see how those principles, ideals, and challenges have changed. And you know, in my next life to come, I want to be a college professor. So I'm going to give you a homework assignment. So as you will see, the collective vision poll on Hoover, you can share with us the new things that you've learned. You can see how to do that there. Share with us the new things that you've learned. And at the closing session on Wednesday, we will recreate the image of those experiences. Now, as my colleague, Capri St. Ville, likes to remind me all the time, in order to get where you're going, you have to first remember where you've come from. So in that spirit, we're going to take time to recognize and celebrate CORE's great accomplishments over the past year with our Projects of the Year and our Core Member of the Year awards. The Core Network's Project of the Year Award celebrates the meaningful service and life-changing experiences that cores provide their communities and core members. In a year where COVID-19 severely disrupted the typical core work, these cores stepped to the plate to bring support and healing to their communities, all while their core members stayed healthy and safe. The 2021 winning projects highlight the essential role that cores can play when given the proper support, develop internal operations, and respect the power and struggle in their core members' experiences. Our first project of the year honors not just one, and not just one core, but the efforts over the past year. Last March, when the country went into lockdown, cores stepped up to support the critical supply chains and social infrastructure that thousands of families and essential workers relied on to stay safe. Among other activities, cores helped staff food banks, distribute emergency supplies, make contact tracing calls, set up auxiliary medical facilities, provide temporary jobs to displaced workers, support shelters for people experiencing housing insecurities. Not only did cores step up for their communities, they stepped up for each other. Under hectic and uncertain circumstances, cores worked together on behalf of one another to develop COVID-19 safety protocols and share financial resources. Through the Core Network's town halls, phone calls, coalition meetings, and many, many emails, we saw cores break down silos to build up one another. Please join me in welcoming and celebrating the first Project of the Year, COVID-19 response. Let's hear it for the COVID-19 response corps. I know if we were together and we'd be in the ballroom, we'd all be standing up and giving a standing ovation to those folks and from all across the country who worked so hard and still stayed safe. And guess what? We're still here today. So kudos, and we salute you once again. Stay tuned to learn about other projects of the year. We've got a couple of more coming up later on in the program. Okay, since we're celebrating each other, let's move on to some more awards. Every year, we honor a select group of exceptional young people with our Corps Member of the Year award. And I'm impressed by their commitment and their desire to serve. With that being said, it's safe to say that the Corps members that we celebrate today, along with the rest of their 2020 cohort, represent a unique and challenging Corps member experience. Apart from the masks and social distancing, gallons and gallons of hand sanitizer, Corps members were tasked with keeping up Corps morale and serving the hard-hit communities with fewer and fewer resources. Creating a feeling of esprit de corps has never been so difficult, yet never been so creatively done. The 2021 Corps Members of the Year represent the next generation of community leaders, and their impact on their corps and the Corps staff will have lasting effects. Please join me in congratulating our 4 Corps Members of the Year are Destiny Lewis, Victor Lopez, Estefany Gonzalez Ramos, and Trevor Taylor. Yay! Let's hear it for the team. Over the course of the conference, we will be hearing from each one of those Corps members. So let's get started with the first one. I'd like to introduce you to the first Corps Member of the Year, Mr. Trevor Taylor. He's from the Southwest Conservation Corps. Trevor is a leader in many ways. An alumnus of the Student Conservation Association, Trevor joined Southwest Conservation Corps as an AmeriCorps member in May of 2020. He co-led a crew on a technically and physically demanding trail project at 12,000 feet in elevation in the Rockies. I can't even say it just thinking about how high up he was. In addition to his leadership skills, Trevor is a powerful advocate for people of color in the Corps community. He has developed a model called Leaders of Color for Corps programs, which is designed to provide an affinity space for young people of color to learn advanced technical skills. During this time and his time at SCC, Trevor also helped Corps and the Corps staff develop a restorative justice approach to disciplinary action. He's currently still at SCC and will pilot the Leaders of Color program later in 2021. Please join me, and I introduce to you Mr. Trevor Taylor.
Hello, my name is Trevor Taylor. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Corps Network for this amazing opportunity and this award. Secondly, I'd like to thank everybody who has supported me. My parents, my mother, for urging me to apply to my first Corps in 2013. My leads, my then co-leads, and my supervisors. Tess, in particular, for nominating me. I wouldn't be here without them, and I am forever grateful. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. And the city's not known for its luscious greenery, but many of my childhood memories are me and my brother looking for animals in the forest preserve or digging in dirt for bugs. It was no surprise then that my mother forced me to apply to my first Conservation Corps with Student Conservation Association and Friends of the Forest Reserve when I was 15. And I say forced because I was 15 and too cool for anything. But once the program started, I wasn't too cool anymore. I was right where I belonged. I did that program every summer for the next 4 years, working my way up to apprentice crew lead my last 2 years with them. I tackled projects like invasive species removal, boardwalk construction, or doing work in the Chicago Botanic Gardens. I loved the work. I loved going to an area we cleared and seeing native species start to reclaim it. But what I loved more was the impact on its members. Most of us were inner city kids. For some, it was just a college resume boost or a summer job. But I was part of the many for whom it was life-changing. We were given the opportunity to connect with our communities in ways we didn't know about. And as I and others rose the ranks, we became leaders in those communities. I thought about those experiences when I was deciding what to do with my senior year. It was on a whim that I applied for the Southwest Conservation Corps. I didn't know that a 14er was a mountain over 14,000 feet until I was hiking up one through 4 feet of snow with a 70-pound bag, and I couldn't breathe from elevation. But that summer reignited my love for conservation. I knew that there was no other career for me. I spent the summers of 2019 and 2020 at 12,500 feet doing work in the high alpine. I taught my crew how to earn their goat legs while walking and moving in the tundra. I taught them how to build trail, walls, and stairs in rock fields to protect the wildflowers and the pika homes, while bighorn sheep and marmots looked on curiously. And if that wasn't challenging enough, there are other challenges greater than moving a 500-pound rock. Those challenges came in the form of the lack of diversity in the conservation field. It's hard enough to work on a mountaintop or in the high alpine, but it becomes harder when you feel like you don't belong there. I was often the only person of color on my crew, or one of few in the program. I've never done any of the outdoor recreation my peers talked about. I never had access to it. The only way that I could afford to be in wilderness was if I was working in it. But like rock work, if I wanted to move this boulder from our path, I had to get down and dig to the bottom of it. 2020 was a year of unrest. And for many, wilderness offered a respite. But I noticed who had access to this refuge and who doesn't. We all deserve a space where we can come and be our whole selves. And for some, wilderness offers this. But for much of the history of these lands, who that's been available to has been very limited. While these lands remain free and public, access to them does not. As I look ahead to the future of corps and conservation, I see this as a 500-pound rock in our way. Wanting to move it, I have to dig down. I can't help but look at my past experiences with programs that celebrated diversity and cultures from all over, where kids of any background could come and find belonging in the woods. But what I found in my youth, I found was missing in my adult career. So I raised my concerns, and I was heard. I was fortunate enough to be given a leadership position with the Southwest Conservation Corps, and spent the past fall and winter developing the first Leaders of Color crew. The Leaders of Color crew will be an affinity space for Black, Indigenous, and all people of color to come and find that belonging in the greater field of conservation. It's a space where people of color can come and find fulfillment and refuge in the outdoors that has historically been denied to them. This crew wouldn't have been possible without the efforts of so many who came before, like my mentor, Dr. Tuggle with Fish and Wildlife, or programs like Outdoor Afro or Latinos Outdoors, and a myriad of others. With this crew, I'm continuing to lay the groundwork for educating and training the future leaders of conservation. With this crew, I'm working to open up natural spaces not only as an area for recreation, but also as a field for conservation and leadership. Leadership that'll continue to educate and continue to train and push conservation and cores in all directions. Leaderships that will represent what this new era means and be as diverse as this country is. Leadership that'll look like me and my fellow awardees, Victor, Stephanie, and Destiny. Leadership that's already out there and waiting. It is with the help of this leadership that we will move this 500-pound rock from our path and allow so many others to pass through it. Thank you.
Congratulations to Trevor. And Trevor, may your trails ahead come to you in a great way. And we look forward to hearing more and more about your work at SCC. Now, it's time for another Project of the Year award. And it goes to the California Conservation Corps' Wildfire and Emergency Response. While the world faced a pandemic, California also experienced the worst wildfire season on record. Over 4 million acres burned, devastating communities, habitats, and core facilities across the state. Through a partnership with CAL FIRE, established by state legislation, the young adults of the California Conservation Corps became an integral part in the state's response effort. Members served over 11 million hours on 296 fire incidents, completing critical activities such as cutting fire line, creating pathways for additional fire suppression resources, extinguishing hot spots, supporting camps and camp operations, and even protecting at-risk homes. All of this took place while the CCC members served to support those on the front lines of the COVID-19 crisis, staffing food banks, distributing emergency medical supplies, and setting up temporary alternative care facilities. In a year where so many went over and above their typical mission, the California Conservation Corps stands out as a shining example of what legislative investment, strong core operations, and the tenacity of service-focused Corps members can achieve. Please join me in congratulating 2021 Project of the Year, the California Conservation Corps' Wildfire Emergency Response.
You know, you see complete neighborhoods gone, and in a way it kind of gives you motivation.
Just seeing the structure still standing in the morning, what we did really made a difference to whoever lived there.
This is my hometown, so being out here in this fire and trying to stop it from spreading, it kind of hits. It gives me a purpose of waking up early mornings and being out here.
You're getting paid to help out people.
This is what I signed up for. I knew what I was getting myself into.
It's good hard work.
Since June, we've been to approximately 15 counties, several different fires.
I'd rather be here than anywhere else.
What we are doing, it is helping. It is protecting other people's homes.
I feel like this is one of the most rewarding jobs anybody could have.
Knowing that I'm giving back to the community and helping out.
It's been pretty challenging. Day number 28, 29, we've been on the line.
We work at 24, then we get a 24 off to rest and recuperate.
Working 16 hours a day here.
This is our 19th day.
even when you get tired, you know there's a bigger purpose of what you're here for.
We stayed up till like 3 in the morning trying to mop up these fires. It was hard. It was really hard.
What we do here does matter. It gives you a good feeling in knowing that we're part of the team that's putting out this fire.
It's devastating to see that this can happen and a lot of families are losing their homes, but it's a reminder of why I am in the California Conservation Corps.
We are basically protecting our drinking water.
It's rewarding work at the end of the day. You feel like you're actually doing something like major for a community.
To be here and to actually like have our boots on the ground and to help is very rewarding.
We're here helping get these hospital beds ready.
Extremely rewarding. Actually, my mom came past through here. I was able to say hi to her real quick, and the group in front of us fed my mother. So, I mean, couldn't ask for more than that.
This is actually like the first step in helping save lives.
You just know that you've given 110% physically and mentally and known that like you've helped people.
And it's a good feeling knowing that what you're doing is bigger than yourself.
I really love what I'm doing right now.
You know, we'll give it our best till we're out of here and on to the next fire.
We're all coming together to help with this crisis.
Thank you.
We are doing our part to help California.
All caring for each other no matter what is just amazing.
Salute to the hardworking folks at the California Conservation Corps, and congratulations again on this award. All right, so now I want you guys to come a little bit closer. Come on, pay some attention. I know you're out there. I can't see you, but I can feel you. I think you're there. So I need you to pay attention because I need you to do something for me. So I gotta have your complete undivided attention. With so many attendees this year, we want to make sure that all the corps, all the agency partners, all the newbies that are out in the audience get recognized. So we're going to do a virtual roll call. And maybe not quite like the Democrats did during their convention, because maybe we'll do that one next year. We'll be more experienced at what we're doing this year. But to the right of the video feed, you'll see a chat. And I want you to share your name, your corps, the agency or organization, and where you're tuning in from. Let's see if we can get a representative from every state by the end of this next segment. This next segment, you know, when we're in the ballroom together, and I always get up and I get the privilege and opportunity of introducing the CEO of the organization. And I always say that it's a privilege and an honor for me to work with her and for her. That has not changed. The one thing that has changed is that I have seen Mary Ellen's passion, dedication, and commitment to this movement grow and quadruple over the past year. No one has worked harder. No one has worked longer than what Mary Ellen has done on behalf of the corps and the corps movement. So again, it is my privilege and my honor to bring to you the president and CEO of the Corps Network, Mary Ellen Sprenkel.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Corps Network's 36th but first ever virtual annual conference. Last year, as you may recall, we celebrated TCN's 35th anniversary. In some ways, it seemed like just yesterday. In others, it seems like a lifetime ago. While we had envisioned a year-long celebration of the strength of the Corps movement, what we got was a new reality in which people sheltered in place, worked remotely, and attended school from home. Many of us experienced, either directly or through family and friends, unemployment, serious illness, and even loss of life, with some communities and populations being harder hit than others. But even during these challenging times, and in many cases because of them, corps continued to demonstrate their strength in new and unexpected ways and gave us continued reason for celebration. While it is true that as a network, due to the pandemic, our numbers are down in terms of core members enrolled and projects completed. We are so proud of the way the core community rapidly developed protocols to safely get core members back into the field. The way you quickly altered your service projects to help your communities respond to COVID-19, and the way you continued to provide opportunities for youth and others who were displaced by the pandemic and subsequent economic downturn. We are also proud of the thousands of core members who risked their own health and safety to serve their communities in a time of need. We look forward to sharing these stories with you through our core members and projects of the year over the next 3 days. And although we cannot all be in the same room as we were last year at this time, we look forward to sharing information and ideas, working through challenges, and supporting each other in this virtual space in the same way we would if we were together. In fact, this virtual conference has enabled us to grow in numbers and expand our programming in ways we couldn't have done through an in-person meeting. For instance, we have far exceeded past conference attendance records with nearly 700 registered attendees. This includes many core staff, core members, and core partners who would otherwise not have been able to join us. So please connect with old friends and welcome newcomers in this virtual space over the next 3 days, and enjoy the unique content and opportunities we are able to provide through a virtual setting. I have to take a moment here to thank the amazing team at the Core Network, who has worked tirelessly over the past several months to learn new technologies and develop new skills to deliver the same great content through a virtual setting. I'm always amazed by the huge undertaking and wonderful job our small staff does to put together and deliver what I believe is a great conference every year. This year, however, like everything else during 2020, came with additional challenges, but I think you will find that once again, TCN staff has risen to the occasion to deliver an exceptional conference experience. Please be sure to thank the team as you cross virtual paths with them over the next few days. I'd also like to thank our conference sponsors, both longtime partners and new supporters who came through for us even in these difficult times. We are fortunate to have a significant number of federal agency sponsors this year. We thank them and all our sponsors for making this conference possible. The theme of this year's conference is A New Era, Cores in Today's America. What do we mean by that, and what can you expect over the next few days? Almost immediately after going into shutdown, and frequently over the past 12 months, I heard people, myself included, ask, when can we get back to normal? We are all anxiously awaiting the time when we can walk around without masks, shake hands, hug loved ones, attend gatherings, and travel about freely. But the truth is, we can't go back to normal. After the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, a summer of protests and civil unrest, after years of widening ideological division, culminating in an attack on our nation's capital and the very foundations of our democracy, we can't go back to normal, nor should we. We have before us an opportunity to reimagine what normal or this next era should look like. And taking a page from President Biden's playbook to build back better, we have an opportunity to create a fair and just society where, in the words of PolicyLink CEO Michael McAfee, everyone can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. Reversing the impacts of centuries of institutional racism and oppression and decades of environmental degradation and injustice may seem like an insurmountable challenge. However, if we all do our part, if we all work together, we can create the change we want to see and build the fair and just society in which we want to live. In many ways, we are already doing this. By providing educational and professional development programming, we are leveling the playing field for young people who have historically been denied access to resources and opportunity. By completing projects that absorb carbon, restore ecosystems, and make communities more resilient to changing weather patterns and catastrophic storms, we are mitigating climate change. And perhaps most importantly, we are empowering young people, the next generation of leaders, to move these ambitious goals forward after we are gone. But we can't get comfortable, content in the knowledge that we are doing our part while relying on others to do the heavy lifting. We must challenge ourselves as individuals, as program directors and staff, as community leaders, to push outside our comfort zone to create a new era, a fair and just society for all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, socioeconomic status, or background. But what should this new era look like? How do we get there? And what is the role of service and conservation corps? Over the next 3 days, we will hear from people who have given this question a lot of thought. Later this afternoon, Michael McAfee, a lifelong activist and movement builder, will describe the moment before us as one of unprecedented opportunity. He will ask us if we believe in what we are selling and how far we are willing to go to fight for it. We will hear from our Corps Members of the Year about their vision for the future and how Corps can help us get there. And from TCN board member and author Paul Schmitz about how we can all discover the leader within us to make a difference in our own way. And although we are not physically in the same space, we will work together through plenaries, workshops, and small group discussions to create our own vision of the future. We will create a roadmap for realizing that vision, including a major investment into an expansion of the existing network of corps. Then on Thursday, I hope you will go virtually to the Hill to speak with your senators, representatives, and their staff about the policy changes and resources necessary to make this vision a reality. Over the past year, while you have been on the ground delivering essential services and completing critical projects in the midst of a global pandemic, we, your team at the Corps Network, have been shoring up the foundation and laying the groundwork for this new reality. And I think I speak for the entire team when I say that we absolutely believe in what we are selling, and we are willing to go to great lengths to fight for it. Starting last March, shortly after the country began to shut down, TCN started offering virtual town hall meetings designed to help our community process and respond to the pandemic, the economic downturn, and the racial reckoning going on across the country. We worked with many of you, Corps staff and partners, to share information and provide support to help you maintain your fiscal, programmatic, and mental health during some very challenging times. Through the generosity of the JPB Foundation, we were able to provide 30 corps with modest amounts of discretionary funding to address COVID-related emergency needs. I am proud to report that at a time when many businesses and nonprofits were forced to close their doors, we lost not a single corps. From home offices, living rooms, kitchens, and sometimes bedrooms, TCN staff continued to implement our AmeriCorps grants, EAP, OISI, and TIP. We worked with partners like Service Year Alliance and Voices for National Service for the inclusion of an additional $1 billion for AmeriCorps in the recently passed rescue package. And we continue to advocate for changes to AmeriCorps that will make it more accessible to low-income Corps members and the corps that engage them. On Wednesday, we will hear from Sonali Najavan, the new director of AmeriCorps, about this administration's vision for a better funded, more equitable national service program. The Programs and Projects team continued to develop relationships with federal land management and community development agencies, including the Departments of Agriculture, Interior, Housing, Urban Development, Transportation, EPA, and FEMA to provide corps with access to more and a greater variety of project work. The team in the Gulf successfully completed year 3 of the Gulf Corps program with an amazing job placement rate for graduating Corps members of 93%. They kicked off year 4 in the fall and worked with NOAA, the Nature Conservancy, and corps in the region to secure additional funding for years 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the program. The Moving Forward initiative has continued with additional support from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and a greater focus on Corps member development and support, particularly for Corps members of color. The government relations team has worked diligently over the past year. First, to advocate for the passage of the Great American Outdoors Act, which will provide billions in new funding to address the backlog maintenance needs on our federal public lands, and more recently to inform, and in many cases draft, legislation for members of Congress wanting to revive some version of a modern-day civilian conservation corps. And we have worked with the Biden campaign, transition team, and now administration on the vision for a new civilian climate corps built on the existing network of service and conservation corps. We have remained adamant throughout these conversations that any new CCC initiative include funding not only for project work, but also for core member and workforce development, and that it provide opportunities for all communities and populations, particularly those that have historically been underserved and borne the brunt of environmental injustice. I am very pleased that a Civilian Climate Corps initiative was included in then candidate Biden's Build Back Better plan. I am even more pleased that on January 27th, just a few days into his first term, President Biden issued an executive order calling on several department secretaries to develop and deliver a plan for the new CCC by the end of April. Also on Wednesday, we will be joined by White House National Climate Advisor Gina McCarthy to hear more about the administration's ideas regarding the new Civilian Climate Corps. And our very talented communications team has amplified our message and continues to make us all look good. So over the last year, with your help, we have tried to lay the foundation for Corps to play a major role in this new era, in the creation of a fair and just society where all people can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. The opportunities are great and the work before us significant, but I am pleased to report that after a very challenging year, the Corps Network and the Corps movement is strong and growing. I thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. As you can tell, Mary Ellen doesn't sleep at all. So we as the staff, we get a little bit of sleep, but thanks anyway. But no, thank you, Mary Ellen. It's a great, great speech. And I think we're all encouraged and ready to go. I do understand from a little birdie that keeps sending me a message that the chat is just blowing up. Keep it going, guys. Keep it going. It is so great to see the East Coast, the West Coast. I can't see you, but here again, as I said before, I can feel you. Shout out to my girls in New Jersey, to Lori and my bestie in Miami, to Debbie. And I cannot forget to send a shout out to my home state of West Virginia and to April. Thank you for attending. And then I've seen Wendy Butts. I've seen Sean Riggins. I've seen Rachel Latre, Mike Muckle, Christopher Dowis, Ernestine from the Park Service, and of course our chair of the board, Derek Crandall. Thank you all. And I also want to give another shout out to the staff that is keeping it rolling. Thank you, Daniel, for all your hard work behind the scenes and for what you're doing. Anyway, keep that going on the roll call so that we can make sure that we send a shout out. We'll put a ticker across the bottom of the screen here in a little bit so you can see who else is joining us. But thank you, thank you, thank you. We're glad to have you with us. Moving right along, our final project of the year comes from PowerCorpsPHL Memorial Gardens. PowerCorps, based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, engages local young adults in an immersive 4 to 24 month program. Since 2013, PowerCorps has engaged 684 young adults and provided over 650,000 service hours to the city of brotherly love. Unfortunately, the Corps has lost 12 young people during that time, and including 10 to gun violence. To honor the Corps members whose lives were lost, PowerCorps worked to build a memorial grove. It is adjacent to their project headquarters and training center. AmeriCorps members cleared thousands of pounds of trash, hundreds of invasive shrubs, felled dozens of trees, and all of this to help to restore a multi-acre plot of forested land. The Memorial Grove is now a publicly accessible area where people can seek healing in nature. The project has had an emotional impact on all of the PowerCorps Urban Forestry Fellows and serves to honor the families and lives of 12 Corps members who were tragically lost. Please join me in congratulating PowerCorpsPHL Memorial Grove.
The Memorial Grove was at one point in time overgrown by invasive plants and invasive trees. PowerCorp has taken over the management of it, and we are turning it into a grove, which is going to be a more manicured wild space. The goal of it is to honor our past members that have passed away.
The Memorial Grove was something that just kind of took shape over 4 or 5 years, I would say. It started just basic work that we were doing around the area. PowerCorp was looking for a space where we can work out of. We were given access by Parks and Rec in a beautiful location, you know, right here in Fairmount Park.
I joined PowerCorp because, you know, I was trying to go a different way. I wanted to see what can I gain from this program and what knowledge can I get from it. You know, I got a tad bit of experience in different kind of things. What really caught my attention was, you know, coming out here, working on trees. I didn't know how much important it was, you know, and how much they could change the environment.
So here at PowerCorp, I was given a great deal of skills, as well as introduced to environmental stewardship, as well as workforce development, as well as youth development. I learned a great deal about myself, as well as how to help cultivate leaders, as well as come up a leader myself. We have great young people who come through this program looking for a way out, you know, just looking to dream, hoping to become better people, and just being part of that process just makes my day.
It's taken hours and hours and hours of hard labor to get it to where it is now. So after we did the general clearing, then we started doing a little bit more of the specific programming features, like laying out a potential amphitheater and carving the network of trails that are through the site.
We want this thing to look pretty because, you know, we doing this to dedicate the people that we lost. In the long term, I will always come back and visit this project because, you know, it means more to me than just a project.
From being something that is just neglected, abandoned, to now becoming a space that is beautiful and it provides so much for all of us at PowerCorp and for the community. But now it's become so much more. You know, it's the significance and the importance of PowerCorp and what it will mean for us in the long run.
Let's hear it for PowerCorp. If we were in the auditorium and we were all together in the auditorium or ballroom, I'd say something like power, and you'd shout back to me and say core, power, core. So congratulations again to PowerCorp. Again, want to remind you, please keep that ticker going as to where you're tuning in from, and shout out to all my friends. And I want to give a special shout out to the Thursday night crew. You know who you are. Now we're moving into what I think is the best part of the annual conference, and that's the keynote address. And our keynote speaker today is Mr. Michael McAfee. He's the president and CEO of PolicyLink, a natural research and Action Institute, advancing racial economic equity by lifting up what works. Prior to becoming CEO in 2018, Michael played a leadership role in Promising Neighborhoods Institute, which works to provide resources, guidance, and advocacy on behalf of children and families. During his tenure, Michael secured Promise Neighborhoods, a permanent federal program that led efforts to improve outcomes for more than 300,000 children and facilitated the investment of billions of dollars into neighborhoods in concentrated poverty. In his work today, Michael is ensuring equity does not become watered down. He is turning the movement and movement leaders' eyes towards redesigning the rules of the game so that all people in America, particularly those who face the burdens of structural racism, participate in just society. He is achieving this by enacting and liberating public policy that is targeted to over 100 million people living in near poverty, and the majority of whom are people of color. I have had the privilege of meeting Michael, and I think that you will really enjoy listening to him. Now, I want to warn you, this is a keynote speech, so buckle up, strap yourself in. You know what the pilot says. It might get a little bumpy, but you know you were built for it. You know you're going to get through it. But I just want you to be prepared and ready as I introduce to you, and I am honored, Mr. Michael McAfee.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael McAfee, and it's an honor to be with you today. It's an honor to be with you because I think you are in a very powerful position. You represent the hope and promise of racial equity in this nation. And I believe that it can be realized in your lifetime. And so today I want to talk to you about what I think it takes to realize racial equity in your lifetime, creating a just and fair society, one in which everyone can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. And I want to start by asking you to think about the self, yourself. A friend of mine told me once that the self is an instrument that should be played beautifully. And I want you to begin to think about, how do you use yourself to enact a different possibility, bring about a better world for everyone in this nation, but specifically the more than 100 million people who are struggling to make ends meet. The reality of the moment that you're entering is this: all the easy things have been done. And if you ever wanted to enter into the workforce and be in a moment where great things could happen, where radical imagination was necessary, where crazy ideas did not get you marginalized, but were accepted and embraced, it is in this moment. And so what I want you to begin to think about is to how to activate yourself so that you are not afraid to step into your power. Who you are today is good enough to begin the task of collective liberation for everyone. You know, when I started this work, I didn't even know public policy was a profession. I was just trying to figure out how to get out of poverty. And I decided that after trying to sell life insurance and working at a Sprint call center and working at a factory where you field grocery store orders, that wasn't the life that I wanted. And I didn't know what to do, but I was street smart enough and entrepreneurial enough to say, I'm going to stop and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try to create my own foundation to raise $20 million to seed innovations in education. And I knew how to sniff out money and power. I pulled out that Crane magazine that often lists those 100 most influential in a city, and my eyes was drawn to a Jesuit priest named Father Thomas Savage, who was the president of Rockhurst College in Kansas City, Missouri, and an African-American woman named Joanne Collins. She was the only Republican on the Kansas City, Missouri City Council. And I cold called them and I asked them if they would help me run my foundation. Now here it is, I'm trying to get out of poverty. I had a daughter, I'm not married, and I'm trying not to become a statistic, and I'm trying to figure out how to make it. And in my heart, all I want to do is figure out how to work someplace where I can make the world better. Now, they knew I was not going to raise that 20 million. But what they began to do was to introduce me to civic leaders in Kansas City. And I began to see the power of civic leadership. I began to see the power of, if you can get into the right position, what you can do. And ultimately, I'm about to get evicted. I don't have any money. They introduced me to a woman named Jan Kramer at the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation. In our first session, it didn't go well because Jan offered me a job. And I thought she was co-opting me, hijacking me from my own revolution. So I said no. But a few months later, I'm really about to lose my place. And I go and talk to Jan and say, Jan, I would like to try to work at the foundation. She hires me. And this is the first time I got to see money and power being used for good, up close and personal. Overnight, I go from poverty to being a star simply because of my proximity to money and power. Now, I'm telling you this story because sometimes some of you are going to have to get out of line in order to make a way for yourself so that your God-given abilities can be unleashed. And I'm telling you that because no one is going to be able to find the path for you. You're going to have to define it for yourself. And that's what I was trying to figure out, this path. So I go to the foundation, I'm working at the foundation, I move quickly in the foundation. And there was an organization that philanthropy had started to really develop standards for youth development best practice. This is in the 90s when the youth development field was just emerging. And I asked Jan if I could go and turn this organization around because funders had become disillusioned with the founder, the CEO. And I go turn it around. I get it out of $700,000 worth of debt in 30 days. I move our offices and create this magical space for workers to be able to come and think about how do we do the best youth work in the nation. And then I found my voice about asking one simple question. When it comes to youth development, would you put your children or grandchildren in programs that operated with such poor quality? And this was the first time in my life where I'm stepping into my power, I'm finding my voice, and I run into the sanction of what it looks like when you run right up into structural racism. Overnight, I went from a star to an angry Black man. They had me talk to a woman named Dr. Gotti Fanninsteel for a year. And I would go to those sessions and we would talk about life and her family because she knew there was nothing wrong with me. But what she was pushing me to do was to recognize that I needed to learn how to become more politically savvy because I would not survive if I did not. And ultimately, I kept pushing and I got fired in Kansas City, Missouri. Now, I'm telling you that story because it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It's one of the best things that ever happened to me because it made me really choose. Sometimes you can talk a good game, but you don't really believe it. The good game that I was having to be confronted with and making a choice about was this. I'm the only Black man at a foundation that only had one other sister that was of color. And the price of the ticket, as Baldwin would say, was just for me to be quiet and do good work. And I didn't want that. And I could have had anything. Here it is, I'm not even 30 yet. I'm making nearly $100,000 a year in Kansas City, Missouri in the 90s. That was good money, especially coming from where I come from. And all I needed to do was be quiet. I didn't shut my mouth and I got fired. I packed up and I moved to DC to start trying to work. And everywhere I went to try to consult, folks began to call and mess up my opportunity. Now, before I tell you what happened about folks messing up my opportunity, let me tell you, it was the best time of my life because I got to choose. My vocation and my heart and my loyalty rest with community. It rests with folks who do not get the privilege to sit in the spaces in the rooms that I get to sit in and you get to sit in. And as long as I'm alive, that's the work that I want to do. And I got confronted with that. And so it's great to be able sometimes to see if the shit that you're talking is real. And I got to see that it was real. I really do believe what I'm saying. I believe it so much that this is my vocation that I actually had to fly back to Kansas City after I couldn't work. And I had to tell one of my board members that if they did not stop messing up my ability to work, that I would come back and kick their asses and take the misdemeanor charge. Now, the reason why I tell you that also is not to be bragging. I'm telling you that because sometimes you will have to fight for your vocation. You will have to fight to be positioned to be able to serve. And you can never let anyone take that away from you. And these were things that I was learning while just trying to survive that I look back on now. They were things that were important for me to not let go of. The first was, who do I serve? The second, how hard will I fight to make sure that you will not take me out of this game intentionally? And then ultimately, I get a fellowship with Harvard and HUD. I'm able to go to Chicago, lick my wounds, get better and smarter about how to lead change. And after being at HUD for 10 years, I know the job. Now the question is, do I just want to be comfortable? I'm not 40 yet, and I'm making the 6 figures that I always wanted, and I'm having a good life. I've bought property, and I found my wife, and life is good. But my soul is restless. My soul is restless because the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is often one of the biggest funders in a community, but one of the most irrelevant organizations in terms of its impact, in terms of how people perceive it. And I was frustrated because I wasn't in DC in that hall of power. So it was hard to get things done. And I had to decide, do I want comfort and to die in this cubicle, or do I want something else? And at the time that I'm beginning to really struggle with what I should do, a fellowship that I was in, the Annie E. Casey Children and Families Fellowship, was concluding, and a woman named Donna Stark asked me to speak with a recruiter. When we were in New York at one of our sessions, I speak with the recruiter, and I had learned to never let anyone interview me anymore. So I tell this recruiter all these crazy things that I would do if this position out at PolicyLink on the West Coast, if I got it, what I would do. I thought that that would be the end of it. The woman took about 6 pages of notes. I go home and tell my wife that didn't work so well. I'm still immensely scared because I've got the security. You know, I grew up in an era where your parents said to you, baby, you just get that good government job and you hold on to that. But that's not what my soul wanted. And so one day I was cleaning up and I see a book that my wife had out of place, and it was Eckhart Tolle's The Purpose of Now. And out of it, when I picked it up, a newspaper article of me in my 20s came out where I was talking all of this radical stuff. And I'm looking at my younger self in that newspaper and I'm saying to myself, is this who I've really become? Do I not have any more passion or anything else left to give to actually help to bring about a just and fair society? And it was that book being out of place and my wife giving me the encouragement that made me come out to PolicyLink. And I come out for the interview and I bring my little PowerPoint deck to say, if you hire me, this is what I will do. And lo and behold, I get the job. Now, I'm telling you that story because sometimes some of you all are going to be very comfortable and you're going to have to move. You're going to have to operate at the edge of your competence and at the height of being uncomfortable. That is how you will activate the self as a beautiful instrument. I needed to let go of that security so that a greater blessing could come into my life. And that greater blessing was to go to a place like PolicyLink where I could be free to talk about race, class, and gender and all these intersections. And I have success helping President Obama make sure that Promised Neighborhoods becomes a permanently federally authorized program. And now only 2 years now into this my role as president and CEO, I get the chance to run PolicyLink, never coming to it to run it. But the reason why I got to run it is because I was walking in my gifts. All I wanted to do was get results for folks who were being left behind, those 14 million children every day who live in or near poverty. And now I get to actually think about changing the world. A few years ago, as I was going through the leadership transition with Angela Glover Blackwell, we decided that if I ever got another chance to work with an administration closely, we wouldn't just offer up programs. we would begin the 20+ year journey to make our government anti-racist and pro-Black. Now, many would think that's a nice wish, but it ain't gonna happen. But lo and behold, we started working with the transition team, and we significantly influenced the Racial Equity Executive Order. And today we're designing the assessment tool that will be used to assess whether agencies are being successful or not. I'm telling you this because this is the power of staying true to your vocation. My vocation is to sit at the nexus of money and power and to use that privilege to benefit the lives of the folks who cannot be in the room that I'm in. And that's the gift that you have. It's the privilege that you will have. So what I'm trying to signal to you is that I want you to walk in your power. I want you to have a constitution that is really about the people. I want you to hold every day that collective liberation for all in the equity definition is our charge. I must care about poor whites as much as I do poor Asians, poor Latin folks, poor Black folks. This is our moment to realize the promise of equity by creating a just and fair society for everyone. Now, I'm telling you this story because the thing that I learned from my 20s to now is how to be a results-based leader with the skill to back it up. And I want you to continue to master your craft so that you can move people from talk to action with discipline. But there's one thing that can never be compromised. It is your clarity about who you are loyal to. No matter how intoxicating the privilege gets, because you can be in the White House, you can be in the halls of philanthropy, you can be in wealthy donors' homes, you must always know why you're in those rooms. And because I know why I'm in those rooms, because I'm not afraid of suffering loss, I'm doing some of my most impactful work of my life. Sometimes you come into the profession and you're idealistic and it's the best time of your life until it gets beaten out of you. Then you get mid-career and you've lost that magic, you've lost that glow. Well, in 2012, when I came to PolicyLink, I got a chance once again to see if I believed all the shit I was talking. I'm coming out of Penn Station and I have to sit down because I'm short of breath and I know I'm in shape. I was staying in DC over that weekend and I go to the CVS to see if I could get like a Z-Pack or something and think I'm getting a cold. They were closed. I go back, the line was too long. I'm talking to my mother and this is one of those rare times I listen to her. She says, why don't you just go to the emergency room and get them to check you out? I don't know why I listened this day, but I went to the emergency room and I'm there in my little suit and everything, and everybody's talking to me and it's all light. And about the 5th time a doctor or intern comes in, I'm starting to get frustrated. They keep asking me the same questions. Finally, someone comes in, asks a different set of questions, discovers that I'm traveling a lot. They take me back, put some iodine in my veins, and all of a sudden everyone gets deathly quiet. They get deathly quiet because one blood clot would kill you, but I had a host of blood clots that had broken up into both of my lungs. I'm in DC. I'm in the hospital for 3 days. I'm in DC for a month because I couldn't fly back. But I'm actually, once again, I'm having the time of my life because I'm sitting in that hospital bed. I'm not in any pain. And I'm once again confronted with the reality of what have I been doing with my life? And I'm sitting there like, my family will be taken care of if something happens to me. But I've been actually doing what I've been put on this earth to do. And that is such a gift to get a second time. While you're in your 40s, to be able to say, man, I'm doing what I believe are my God-given gifts. I'm unleashing them into the world. And while my wife was saying, my friends would say, would you shut the hell up, please? I didn't want to shut up because most people will never get that gift of insight to actually really believe, get to stand trial, to actually really know, do you really believe all the shit you're selling? And what I want you to be able to do is to answer a resounding yes, that you really are down for the collective in liberation of folks in this nation who have been left out. Tending to the design challenge of this nation is the work for our generation. It's only going to be realized with people like you who can go and build institutions that then can manifest the power necessary to change the laws and regulations in this nation, the customs of our institutions so that they work for everyone. This is why I say self as instrument is probably the most important tool that you can develop right now. I want you to be afraid. I want you to be unsure of yourself. And I want you to keep moving past it. There's not a day that I wake up that I'm not afraid. There's not a day that I don't wake up and I'm not unsure about things. But the one thing that I've learned is that if I walk in my faith, if I just take the steps, it's amazing how the universe puts things in front of you. I didn't know how we were going to be able to influence this administration. I just started setting things in motion with my team. When I took over 2 years ago, we had never had a big fundraising effort. I didn't know wealthy donors. But I'm going to tell you a story because this is how you'd be surprised at how powerful you are when you embrace the gifts that sometimes you discount. In my head, I've always said that what makes me special is that I'm street smart and book smart. And sometimes we don't value our street smartness enough. But when I was thinking about how do I get into a place where I've got the financial security to do my work, there was one thing that I knew how to do. And it goes back to that story I told you about knowing how to smell power and money. I asked a simple question. Who are the consultants to the wealthy folks? I went out, I found out who they were. I engaged in a couple of them, let them begin to work closely with me to hone my strategy. And lo and behold, because of that relationship, they walked more than $70 million through our door last year. That's almost unheard of for a leader of color taking over from a seminal leader and for an organization that is predominantly people of color. I'm telling you that story because the gifts that are already inside you are the gifts that are going to carry you through. Of course, we need to be able to continue to master certain things, but I want you not to walk away from who you are, because that beautiful alchemy of who you are today, that's that uniqueness that's going to open up a world of opportunity for you. So I've tried to share this story of my own journey with you so that you can connect with a couple of things. Doesn't matter where you come from. You're gonna, if what's inside you is special and unique and is from a pure place, it cannot be stopped. There will be times you will have to fight to defend your vocation, and you must never let someone take it away from you. You must be committed to the work, not just for a season, but for a lifetime. This work is not about punching your ticket so you can go get paid and make more money somewhere else. You can get paid in this sector. I expect to be compensated well because I'm going to deliver well. But I'm not trying to pimp poor people out so that I can get my ticket punched and then go do something and say, oh yeah, I did my stint with those poor people. You got to stay in the movement. You got to stay in the movement so that the movement can get strong and you can get wiser and you can grow up in it. That's how you build enduring institutions. That's how you build an enduring legacy. And more important, as you think about activating the self, you've got to not be afraid to love. You've got to not be afraid to love with the strength that will cause you to fight for your people. I work so hard and I fight so hard because I actually love my brothers and sisters in this nation, no matter what color your skin. And if you love humanity, you'll fight for it. If you love humanity, you will fight for it. So in this moment where there are unprecedented opportunities and unprecedented threats, do not be dismayed by the threats, because you have every right to participate in this democracy and make it be what you want it to be as those who choose to do something else. The question is your resolve as strong as theirs? Have you mastered the skills necessary to get results as big as theirs? Is your radical imagination as bold as theirs? Think about it. To design a nation on stolen land, genocide, and slave labor, that's some badass shit. Think about it. To take up the mailboxes so we can't even vote, to make my grandmother stand in line for 8 hours, that's some radical ass shit. Where is our radical stuff? We're afraid to talk about big ideas. Because in some cases, I feel we don't even love our people enough to claim them, to say their name. Do not let that be you. Because while you're shrinking small to the world to try to make people feel acceptable with what you're talking about, the other side is playing a structural game to turn this place into South Africa, and there is no apology for it. This is our moment. I don't need permission to lead. I don't need permission to have the audacity to think that I can make this nation better. That is my birthright by being born here. And all I have to do is claim it. This is our power. This is our future. This is our nation. And we're not going anywhere. So while we're here, we need to set about the business of making this be the America that we know is possible. The America that can do the fundamental thing that it has never done. Center Black people, love Black people, and in so doing, liberating everyone. If we do this work, if you step into your power, if you use yourself as instrument, whatever that means for you, we will create a just and fair society, one in which all can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. I'm honored to be able to share space with you. I'm honored to be in this struggle with you. Whatever I can do to support you, that I will. But I want you to know in this moment, you are not bound by anything but the limitations of your mind and your heart. And I want you to take those shackles off. I want you to have the audacity to believe that you can be running whatever institution, whatever organization, whatever it is, you can run it. You can do it. And there are those of us out here who've been around long enough that will support you. The work is hard. There are no guarantees. And quite frankly, the only respite, the only peace is actually found in the struggle. It's a beautiful struggle nonetheless, but there is no peace. There is no peace. There is no quiet. This is what we were born into. And our ancestors took so much. We are the manifestation of their wildest dreams. And as such, we must finish what they started. We must finish what they started. We must ensure that future generations can live in a nation that lives up to this beautiful multiracial democracy. That's our charge. That's your charge. And it will start by using yourself as an instrument that is played beautifully in service of all in this nation. Take care.
Speechless. And I guess in the words of 44, I'm fired up and ready to go. We're off to a great start. And I think that if we were in the ballroom together, I'd probably say something like, look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, neighbor, you're doing what you were put here on earth to do. And it is no mistake that we are in this space and place and time together. Wow. Let's see if I can transition to a close here. One of the things that I do want to remind you, you guys keep putting things in the chat. I also wanted to tell you that while some of this is taped, some of us are coming to you live and in person. So some of this is really live. And that's just the beauty of being able to do a virtual conference. Some we were able to pre-record, and then some of us are able to come to you live and in person. I want to remind you once again to check Hoover and find the links for the session broadcasts, the updates to the community board. And let me remind you about something about the community board. I think right now, Carlos Camprera may be the lead in the community board, but I do want to let you know that on Wednesday afternoon at the close of our closing session, there will be a prize because there will be a winner. And you know, the Core Network, we always like to give out prizes. We always like to give out surprises. So be prepared, be ready. There is a prize for the winner on the community board. Also, check out our sponsors. We have some fantastic sponsors. You can see some of them listed. And here again, if we were in person, you know that in the lobby area, we would have sponsor booths that would be set up and we'd go to visit the sponsors. Well, you can visit the sponsors' virtual booths. So please make sure that you go and visit each of the sponsor booths during the course of the next 3 days. I want to also reiterate Mary Ellen's thanks to our sponsors and our project partners. We could not do this without you. And we are glad that we're all part of the same big, happy family. So I think that we have come to the end of our first plenary session. I'm so glad that you guys could join us, although we're here in a virtual space and coming to you live from my home office in Northern Virginia. Glad to have you with us. Again, if you've got any questions or concerns, please reach out to any of the Core Network staff, or you can email us at conference@corenetwork.org with any of your questions and concerns. Anyway, get ready. I'll see you all again together tonight at our virtual happy hour, starting right after the workshop block, but we'll see you later. Take care. Stay safe. Don't forget, if you're going out, wear your mask. But for right now, you're going to be in because you've got workshops to attend to. Anyway, see you all later on this afternoon.